Hello YouTube, this is GAMEZOMATIK and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Gaming on a Budget. This is the second part, this is part 2 to a video I did about a month ago where I was talking about how you could buy, fairly decent games for next to nothing if you haven't got much money to sort of play around with. Especially if you're kind of into retro. Retro gaming doesn't always cost a fortune. Now, I wasn't totally retro last time. I concentrated on the PS3. This episode, I'm going to concentrate on the PS2. Now, PS2 games are kind of notoriously pretty easy to pick up and pretty cheap anyway. And what I'm going to try and do in this video is I'm going to try and kind of steer away from the AAA games that you'd expect. So, I'm not going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid, I'm not going to be talking about Grand Theft Auto or Gran Turismo or any of the sorts of big PS2 games that you'd expect. I wanted to kind of highlight some maybe slightly lesser known games that are still really, really good games, but they're really cheap to pick up and pretty easy to find. None of the games I'm going to show are PS2 games that are hard to find. These are games that you always see in charity shops or CEX and places like that. Now, I base the prices on CEX prices simply because that's the kind of place where you can go online and just order PS2 games still off the shelf. eBay prices can vary, Amazon can vary, Gumtree, places like that. So this is just a general kind of CEX. I kind of have a set sort of their prices listed online, so this is where I've got the prices from. Now there's 10 games here, and all 10 of these games came to the grand total of £11.25, which you can't really go wrong for 10 games. So yeah, so without any further ado, I'm going to crack on with it and we'll have a look at our first game. So the first game I'm going to mention is Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. Now this is a really, really good sort of first person shooter set in the Star Trek Star Trek Voyager universe. This is a port from a PC game. Now the PC game was slightly better and did run a little bit better. It looked a little bit better obviously because PC graphics at the time were quite a bit superior to PS2 graphics, but this is a fairly decent port. It's got a couple of little frame rate issues, but you can pick this up for £1, and if you're looking for like an unusual kind of first person shooter and it's really cheap, this is definitely one of the best ones you can pick up on the PlayStation 2. You don't really have to be into Star Trek either. I'm not like a big Trekkie or into Star Trek, but I really enjoyed this game. There was a sequel to this game called Elite Force 2, but that was only released on the PC. So yeah, Star Trek Elite Force is the first game. The next game is probably one of the better known games that I'm going to mention in this video from a better known series, and I think there's been 4 or 5 of these games, and that is Onimusha Warlords. One of the original, very early kind of PlayStation 2 game that came out. This is a fantastic series of games. I've got all these games and they're all really fun to play. This is kind of made by Capcom, and I think the fellow did I think something to do with Resident Evil, had something to do with the people who made Resident Evil, had something to do with this game as well. It's kind of set in feudal Japan. It's very much a Resident Evil type of game, but there's a lot of kind of hack and slash gameplay in it. Again, this is really cheap. If I look at the list, I'm looking up there because that's where the list is. You can pick this up for £1. And all the others are pretty cheap as well. I think the most expensive one was the last one, and you can get that for about £3.50 or something. So yeah, Onimusha Warlords, fantastic, really good PS2 sort of hack and slash sort of survival game. Up next, another first person shooter. This game was supposed to be the third Deus Ex game, but actually got cancelled, and so it got remade into this game, and this is Project Snowblind. Again, another game that came out on the PC and was ported over to the PlayStation 2. Although actually, I think it actually came out simultaneously with the PS2, although I might be wrong about that. This is a really, really solid first person shooter with a lot of sort of Deus Ex kind of RPG elements to it, where you can sort of mess around with your inventory, and you've got various powers like you can see through walls and things like things like that. It's a really solid first-person shooter with a really great story as well. And if you actually play this game, you can see a lot of Deus Ex in it. You can see the influences in there, and it's definitely worth picking up. This game you can pick up for 50 pence, 50p, and it's a great game. So yeah, Project Snowblind. Next one is like an arcade racer, I suppose, and that is Splashdown 2 Rides Gone Wild. This is probably one of the, I wouldn't say it's a hard game to pick up, but it's one that you may see a little less than some of the others. This is a sequel to Splashdown, it's kind of a jet ski racing game. But the first one was more of a straightforward kind of racing game. But this one takes it all to a new level, because all the levels are kind of based in wacky locations. Like there's a level set in a prehistoric theme park, there's a level set in a Bermuda Triangle, and as you're going around, the track changes all the time around you, so no lap is exactly the same. There's one level in this which is really good, where you're kind of going around this theme park, and every time, which is like a prehistoric theme park with all animatronic dinosaurs, and as you're going around this theme park, every time you go around a different lap, the rides start breaking down. By the time you get to the end lap, all the dinosaurs are going mental and falling apart and everything, and it's just a really fun kind of racing game. Yeah, Splashdown 2 Rides Gone Wild, you can pick this up for £1. This is £1. So yeah, another great game. Now, not wanting to leave any of the genres out, I thought I'd better put kind of a strategy game in there. And there's not that many strategy games on the PlayStation 2, but this is a really good one, and that is Theme Park World. This is a really good game. Anyone who's familiar with the Theme Park series will know this game. Yeah, this also came out on the PC. It's another PC port, but this is a really good port actually, and graphically it holds up really well on the PS2. And yeah, the general aim of it is to basically build your own theme park and manage it. The good thing about this, you can go on all the rides, so you can actually get on most of the rides and try them out. And yeah, it's pretty much like a sort of a big graphical update to the original theme park. You can pick this up in CEX and other retailers or online for £2. Is it £2? Yeah, £2. So you can't argue with that. £2 for Theme Park World. Up next, another survival horror game. This is a much underrated game, and I think this is a great game, and that is Cold Fear. And this is again very much in the same ilk as Resident Evil. It's got that kind of look to it, and that kind of same game mechanics to it, those kind of tank controls. But the graphics on this game are brilliant. For a PS2 game, it's probably one of the nicest looking PS2 games out there. It's all set on this kind of abandoned ship, it's almost like a tanker or something, and something's happened on the ship, and you've got to kind of discover what happened, and there's all monsters roaming around, and graphically it's really impressive. Yeah, Cold Fear. This is the most expensive game on the list. This is about £3.50 to pick up, but again, shop around charity shops, you're going to find it cheaper than that. But it's a great game, so it's worth picking up and playing. Cold Fear. Another very early release for the PlayStation 2. Again, I think this might have been a launch title, in fact. I remember getting this game from Blockbuster Video when I got my PS2 and playing it all weekend, and this is X Squad, which is kind of a squad-based shooter made by EA. Now, graphically, it hasn't held up that well, and some of the AI can be a bit dodgy in it, but this is a really solid game, and definitely worth picking up and having in the collection for the price. This is 25p. You can buy this game for 25p, and you always see it around in places like CX and in charity shops and cash converters and places like that. So it's really worth picking up. And I kind of played it when it first came out, and then I went back to it recently, and it's held up really well gameplay wise. It's still a hell of a lot of fun to play. So yeah, X Squad. Another team-based shooter on the PlayStation 2, and probably one of my favourite games of that generation. I've mentioned this game before on all the videos, and it's one of my favourite games ever released, and that is Project Eden. This game is absolutely brilliant. This is made by Core, who made the original Tomb Raider, and this again is a squad-based kind of shooter. You can control this team of agents. They have to go down into this city that's set in the future. in the future there's kind of two cities. There's a like one city built on top of another. All the poor people live in the lower city, all the rich people live in the upper city, and you have to kind of go down into the lower city and discover why people are getting killed, and you go in with your squad. And there's some really good game mechanics in this. You can swap between all the characters. There's some really good platforming in it. There's good shooting in it. There's great atmosphere. I can't big this game up enough. It's one of my favourite games ever on the PS2. You can pick this up for, let me just have a quick look. You can pick this up for 50p. 50p, and this is another game. In fact, I went on eBay recently and someone was selling these still factory sealed. They had a big job lot of them factory sealed. So it's one of those games that is absolutely brilliant. It's kind of an overlooked classic, but it absolutely bombed and no one bought it. So yeah, Project Eden, definitely worth picking up. Another game really worth picking up, PsyOps. Another great kind of third-person action game. The general sort of plot point in this game, if you like, is this: you play this guy here, he's got all these psychic abilities, and this is great. You can move things around with your mind. You can actually force people to do things, you know, take over them. It's all about psychic abilities and using them psychic abilities to work your way through the levels. Some really good cover shooting in this as well, and it's a good action game. And this is really another one that's really cheap. I've actually got this on the original Xbox as well, and this is only, if I have a look how much it is, 75p this game. You can pick this up for 75p, and it's made by Midway, and it's a really solid game with a really good story and a lot of fun to play. So, and a little bit of stealth in there as well, I think. So yeah, PsyOps, the Mind Gate Conspiracy. And the final game on the list is Rogue Trooper, which is a really solid third-person action game. You play this guy who's the Rogue Trooper. It's kind of a genetic experiment, and he lands with all these other troopers. But he's got some really good powers, like his hat can hack into things, his gun talks to him, and you kind of land on this planet and you've got to go off and do all these different missions, and there's loads of gadgets. And this is a really great game. The character is from the 2000 AD comics. It's just a really underrated game. I played it originally on the Wii a couple of years ago, and I enjoyed it so much that when I picked it up on PS2 about 6 months ago, I played it again. It was that good. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, Rogue Trooper on the PS2, definitely worth picking up. This is 75p, so if you see this game, pick it up. It's definitely worth it. And that's it. So it just, you know, only a short video, but just goes to prove, you know, even really cheap games like the PS2, there's some really kind of, if you like, gems out there worth picking up, and it's kind of, they cost next to nothing. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and I shall return soon with another video. Please click like and subscribe, and take care of yourself. See you later.